Hey, gang. Welcome. Oh, there we go. Welcome. It's happening. It's Wednesday, hump day, whatever you want to call that. Let me zoom in here just a little bit closer. I think Philip's going to join us. I think he was planning on it as of last week, and I don't know of anything that. I love when people just like tune in and tune out right away. Like, why would you do that? If you're not going to check it out, don't check it out. All right, whatever. Radio X out of Perth, Australia. WZQR in Pineland. K Shop in Vegas. Rainbow Radio, Yerg's Radio, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. It's time to go. It's time for Translating Trump, although Philip isn't with us yet. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't get any message that he wasn't going to be. So we'll maybe he's going to be here in the second hour. I don't know. But he's usually here for the first, and then we decide if he's going to be for the whole thing or not. But we'll see what happens. I still have Monday's thing on. What's today? I think it's today Wednesday. I don't even know. I'm a mess. Let me pull up a calendar or something here. Google Calendar. Google Calendar. Google Calendar. Did I lose my Google Calendar? I did. But no, it's Wednesday there. Yeah. Okay. Wednesday the 19th. I'm looking at the time thing that we do. There it is. 11:02. About to be 11:03 here in the East Coast. 8:03 out there on the left coast at K Shop. 3:03 in London. 16:03 in Berlin, Germany. And I'm adding some other markets that we know we're serving. 17:03 in Tel Aviv, Israel, and Jerusalem. 17:03 in Gaza and Kyiv, Ukraine. 18:03 in Moscow. 11:03 p.m. in Perth, Australia. And it's 2:03 in the morning in Sydney and Melbourne. I love that tool. But we're still no Philip. But I've got plenty to talk about. That is from 2 days ago, right? Wasn't that the ticker across your screen right now? Today's question for the telephone lines, 1-888-88 Yergs, 844 gay LGBT, or through Google Voice at 813-358-3836. Is Trump in trouble? My dog, the puppy, loves chewing up all kinds of leaves. And we get some of these, I don't know what plants they are, but these leaves fall off that they're dried and they're huge. And of course, she brings them into the house. Mr. Momentum, thanks for checking us out. What is that dinging sound? There's like somebody else, like they're checking in. And I keep looking around. Anyway, today, tariffs. Are we still talking about this? The Associated Press versus Caroline Leavitt, because apparently she knows more than a very experienced journalist who got booted out of the White House. He replied back to Anthony here on Instagram. Yeah, she knows more than an experienced member of the press corps that gets banned from various things by the press office because they do their job. We'll also hear what the namesake, the father of modern day republicanism, Ronald Reagan, has to say on the issue. We'll look at what really happens with tariffs and the actual definitions. Anthony checking in from over in Instagram, Mr. Momentum 24 from, and you're going to hear about Momentum Fitness and Wellness in a minute, about 10 minutes. It says that tariffs are definitely not going to be a good thing. This will hurt America. Now, here's a guy that imports stuff directly. I mean, this guy goes right to the dock. Let us know in the chat from Instagram. I'll bring it over to the monitor that we're sharing. So before you type it in, know that I'm going to put, if you do respond, I'm going to put that response on the screen and people are going to be able to see that. But I do want to read it at least. Who pays for a tariff? We'll get his, I think he's still there. Yeah. We'll get his response in a minute. But also court orders. When are they valid? You see, the Trump administration is currently saying, well, the verbal order isn't valid. We're challenging that. We're going to take a look today at what exactly they can challenge and what they can't. After that, what do we got? And then there's Ukraine, Marco Rubio, and a video as Senator Rubio resurfacing. That's not ending well. But let's bring this. Here's somebody, again, here's a guy. This is what he does. He imports various things. I'm not going to get into that. I don't know enough about it. But he imports various things right at the dock. Now, many of you might not be able to read this, so I'll read it for you. Tariffs are not going to be a good thing. This will hurt America. We order from Asia. We get a lot of our top end equipment from there, and it costs us a whole lot more money. We do, as in who pays the tariffs? We do. That might be paid directly by somebody in the foreign government. Here, he pays it right at the dock, right there before he even gets his merchandise. You don't pay, you don't get. And still, we have a press secretary. You're going to see in a minute. This is classic. This is, wow. This girl is a spoiled little bitch. I don't know if that's okay for the radio or not, but I don't care because it's the truth. Watch when we play that. And then the same thing with how she says about how we're examining whether or not a judge's order is legal. Like, what do you want them to do? Just try to make you figure out if there's any clothing on underneath that black robe? That's a Night Court episode, by the way. I think there was one where Harry had his robe ripped off and he was in boxer shorts and trouser slacks that were held up like socks to be fake trouser slacks. But anyway. Okay, now my chat. You guys got to see this. Sportcat checking in. Yo, hope everything's going well in Knoxville for you. Let me see how I forget how I do that. Oh, here it is. Overlay. Look at this. That's it. For some reason, my chat is white today. Like the background, like it's a daytime thing in the chat are coming up, but it's not showing that on the screen. Follow up with Anthony, Mr. Momentum 24 from Momentum Fitness and Wellness. We have to have a broker to broker the deal, and he gets paid along with us paying the extra tax. So there's that. This is from a guy who does this for a living, and we're going to hear from another one in a minute. I think I got that one queued up too. But yeah, Caroline, are you listening? Probably not. But yeah, my chat has a white background today. I don't know how else I could, without causing one of those weird repetitive video loop where you see the same thing inside the same thing inside the same thing, and it just keeps going into perpetuity, as I like to say in the Shark Tank. All right, so what else? There's basically what's happening is the judge made a verbal order from the bench to have the planes turn around. The Trump administration said no, because that's not an order yet. And because they took off before the written order came out, it was too late. Well, good luck with that, because we've got a bunch of actual experts who are above the age of 28 who don't agree with you. And then we have something that's going to bite him in the ass. And Ken, if you're watching, thanks for sending that video in. I found the bigger version of it that's not on TikTok. And we'll take a look at that in a minute. But this was actually forwarded to me initially by superfan Ken Williams. And I think, there's the other one. I want to look something else up for real quick. There's the more, how should I say, let's take a look at this one. There's the more up-to-date opinion of the Ukrainian situation that I don't know what's changed, other than Rubio is no longer a senator. Now he's a puppet for another puppet. And the puppet master happens to be the one that was the aggressor in this whole thing. Go figure. All right, let's get to it. Looks like I might be alone for 2 hours today. Feel free to call. Take up some time in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking on some things. I minimized. He might have messaged me in Facebook Messenger. I had 4 monitors, and there he is. I definitely want this guy with us. I'm going to take a break now. So I told you we were going to hear from Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Let's do that right now. And then when we come back, Philip Blackett's going to join. And boy, do I have questions for him. You're listening or watching. This is Up the Middle on the Massive Media Network. We'll be back right after this.
What are you doing later? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to the gym, but not just any gym. Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Walk right up to the door. There's a QR code on the door. You can sign up right there. You've got no excuse. But not only that, their equipment is amazing. It's kept up well. It's expanded. There's stretching area. There's CrossFit. There's hardcore training. a dedicated area for stretching, dunk tanks, sauna, everything you need to get that Hernando beach body or keep your Clearwater beach body. You can train with your shirt off, you can scream, you can yell, and you won't be intimidated either. Go to Momentum Fitness and Wellness on US 19 in Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. Build the momentum at Momentum Fitness.
All right, tariff time. We heard from Anthony Gilio, the owner of Momentum Fitness and Wellness, sponsor we just had. Oh, I got to put the music on. I still got to do another live spot. Let that fire up. Rumble. We are on Rumble. Try to do a fair and balanced presentation. By the way, we're no longer on TikTok. When they needed us, it was okay that we didn't have 1,000 followers yet. But now, Trump's in. They don't need us anymore, and we're not cool enough. That's TikTok. That's what you're buying, Elon. So go buy it, because that's how you roll too. Also, why we're no longer on Twitter. I'm not going to support somebody who says it's for free speech and then goes around censoring people like they did to us when we were on Twitter. I mean, I'm still there. I still got a presence, but we don't use it. We don't broadcast to that. We don't pay to have X number of destinations to broadcast to and then have to go to that destination and pay even more to be there, when we're not going to be permitted to say what we need to say. And that's not me being a libtard. In fact, unfortunately, that's more of a conservative viewpoint than it is a progressive or liberal one. Well, on Rumble, they may also be a little conservative, but we're still welcome there. We're still broadcasting that right now as we speak. And if you'd like to do the same thing, go to rumble.com/register/Yergs Media. Remember, Yergs Media is what Mastiff Media used to be before we rebranded and I got rid of Yergs and everything. I didn't want to be all about me. But we are reaching out to the right. We do want to hear from the right. And let's do that right now. With us is Philip Lackett, our resident Trump translator. And like I said, boy, do I have questions for you.
Well, happy Wednesday to you too, sir.
Yeah, buddy. So let me ask you, who pays for a tariff?
It could be one of what?
Ultimately.
At least two. Well, if you're a smart businessman or woman, you're going to pass that off to the customer, right?
Correct.
If you want my product or service, it's going to take me added cost for me to provide it for you. That means I'm going to increase the price so you pay for it rather than I pay for it out of my profits.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go with, now I know why they say it. From Trump 1.0, they referred to the more senior people as the ones who kind of kept him in check a little bit, as the adults in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That was their nickname. Well, they ain't there anymore. Who would have thought there was a day when you would miss Sean Spicer? So here we go with Caroline Levitt. Let me see if I can find that one first. I'll do that. And then that's from NPR or PBS. That's Ronnie. Ronnie again. Where'd she go? Here we are. This was, I think, a week ago, March 11th, when the Associated Press tried to ask about the tax breaks that the president is promising, yet the tariffs that he's levying.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Ding, ding, ding. Round one.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. And I'm curious for why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. And the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
They
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And
Boom.
ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions.
Well, you don't
that
know
this
what you're
president has
talking
made.
about.
I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary, go ahead.
What say you, sir?
She got some backbone about her, man. I like it. You know.
That's fine if she knows what she's talking about.
Want to take you the floor. Senate moments
Oh.
ago, Senate Majority.
Sorry about that.
So what always gets me is, and this gets back to economics 101 for me too, right? Because I did major in economics.
You
Right.
worked at where? Like Ernst & Young, or where was it?
So Goldman Sachs, Bank of
Goldman
America,
Sachs.
Merrill
Yeah.
Lynch, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But more so with the economics part, right? When you are taking on a cost like a tariff, you always have the choice of one of two things, right? And this is always funny to me because they put a lot of emphasis on the customer, ultimately the end user, but not enough on the business incurring the costs. Okay, the business owner always has a choice with a tariff. Okay, you're putting this on me. Either I'm paying for it or Ross is going to pay for it. The government itself didn't say Ross has to pay for it, because then it would be a direct tax on the customer, right? A sales tax. But the business person is saying, nope, we're not going to pay for that. We're going to pass it off to the end user, to Ross, and we're going to then blame the government for making us have to do it. But you made a choice. I don't see enough businesses saying, you know what? Ross is going through enough right now. We're going to actually shoulder this and take this on the chin for him. And yes, that means lower profits for us. But if that means instead of it costing him $5 when it used to cost him $3, then we'll shoulder that $2 and he still pays $3 because we want to keep him as a customer. And we
So what you're saying then is the exporting government, China, Canada, Mexico, are not the ones paying this tariff.
So who's actually paying for it? Like, I thought it was once that good is being transported from China into the United States, because it's coming from China, whoever exports it, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but whoever exported it from China has to pay for it once it reaches the border for us, right? Or is it on?
You're saying the internal inside the United States agency, company, customer, ultimately whoever. But what Trump has been saying is that these other countries are going to pay that. And literally the world, to include one of our sponsors before you came on, Anthony Gillio is joining us from Instagram. And while that's not connected to the chat, unfortunately, I can bring that back over and show you what he said about it. This is a guy who, in addition to owning a gym, has an import business. And he said, and I'll read it if it's a little small for you. Maybe I can increase it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Can you see it okay?
Okay, now I see it better. Yeah.
Yeah. Tariffs are definitely going to hurt gonna reading the
Definitely not
wrong.
going to be a good thing. I'll read it. There's no problem.
This
This
will
will
hurt
hurt.
America,
Yep.
and we order from Asia,
Yep.
like China. We get a lot of our top. He does like
In
tents and stuff.
top end equipment.
Okay, yeah,
From there, and it
from
costs
there,
us a whole
and it
lot more
costs a whole
money.
lot more money. This was in response. The we do was a response to who pays the tariff.
Uh-huh. We have to
Uh,
have a broker to broker the deal, and he gets paid along with us paying. He gets paid along with us paying the extra tax. Okay, so yeah, you're basically passing the costs out to Mr. Momentum, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
whoever you're getting the product from, they're not saying we'll take the costs on for you. It's like, no, no, no. If you want our stuff, we're not paying this tax. We're not paying this tariff. You are, if you really want this. And
Right.
so I think it's an easy way to shift the blame game, because what the exporter is doing is saying, hey, you can tariff all you want. We're just going to shift the blame to you because we're going to pass the increase to your customer in America, and your customer in America is going to get mad at you, not us, even though the business itself could very well say, Mr. Momentum, we appreciate your business. We're
Right.
going to at least shoulder half of the tariff at least. So we're in this together. That would build a lot more goodwill with the business in particular. But no, it's much easier to say, no, we're just not going to let it impact us. If you want it, it's a higher price. So you have to pay more, and then the broker gets paid as well. So it's a double whammy. And yet we still get paid higher for what you're doing.
So, but again, point being, it's not China that's paying the tax.
But it's their choice, though, right? The problem is, I get where you're coming from, Ross.
No,
It's
no,
like,
but what he's saying is China never even sees it. Before that gets off the ship, this is what he told me before on another occasion. Before that even gets off the ship,
mhm.
they pay that at the duty with customs.
Mm-hmm. So who actually
It
makes the
doesn't come
payment?
off.
Who actually makes the payment? Is it the business itself, or is it the end user?
The importer, Tony's Anthony's company is
Right.
American made and based,
Yep.
and then the American business,
Mm-hmm.
decides if he's going to pass it on to the consumer or not China.
So I guess I'm just trying to clarify. When that happens, it comes into our borders. Does Anthony get some sort of like notification,
Oh yeah.
invoice, bill that says, hey, it's coming here. You need to pay X for us to be able to get this to you?
And that's one of the things he's bitched about. That
Mm-hmm.
not only is he paying that tax, that tariff, but the broker
Who arranged
go,
it, put
I
the two
changed my
together.
prices. You got to pay me even more.
Mm-hmm.
But you still don't get it.
Nothing's changed except higher price. So I want a piece of that too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, my point is none of that is China. And Trump's been saying that China, Canada, Mexico, the EU are going to be ones paying these taxes, these tariffs. I mean, it's the same thing.
So I guess what's going on in my head is, can Trump actually force those exporters in China that bill's coming to them and they can't pass it off to the customer? Because their gut reaction thinking as business people is, I don't want to pay it. Someone else, let Ross pay it. Let Anthony pay it. But if there was a way that said, nope, if you're going to do business with us, you have to pay it. And whatever, you can't get a good shipped to you unless you get payment in the first place. So maybe that's the case where the exporter says, hey, Anthony, we'll ship this out to you, but you got to pay us X amount plus a tariff. So when we get the bill from customs, we have the money to pay for it. So he still technically pays it because they're not offering to pay it for him. But is there any sort of force that the government can say, hey, this has to come out of the exporter's pocket?
But that's still an American company here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying the importer or the exporter in the other country?
Right. So if like you're trying to force the China exporter, Like, listen, you're shipping this in here. You're getting the bill, not the end user, not Anthony.
Yeah, but none of that's great on paper.
But
None
is
of
it
that's
actually
making
carried
sense
out?
because
That's what I'm trying to better understand.
no business is going to do that.
What, take the cost on themselves?
I just upgraded internet so that it's faster and we put out a better product.
Yep.
I can't just continue to charge the same amount for advertising, or
I mean, if you're Facebook, you can. If you're TikTok,
or
you can.
not, or not continue to only sell X amount of ad spots and not cover that additional cost.
Right. Like, so you always have a choice.
And no
Rob.
business is going to do that.
It depends, because you have businesses that pass increases every year, right? When you get your garbage taken, away, when you got your electricity.
Don't even get me started about my garbage, because
when you got your electricity,
was supposed to come this morning, and they took half of it and they tagged some notice to my can saying this recycling is dirty. Like, I rinse out plastic bags that had frozen vegetables in them.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think we notice this. We're surrounded by businesses passing off the cost to us. If you go to McDonald's, for example, the extra value bill is no longer $4.99 like it used to be.
Oh, right.
It's the same burger, same fries, same drink, but it's no longer $4.99. Oh yeah, they're smaller, right? Because they make a choice to say, hey, how do we make this profitable for us? Pass the extra costs to the consumer. We're going to shrink the product so it's less quality than it used to be. They'll still buy it. We'll make more money from it. But it's not them saying, hey, we're going to take that on the chin ourselves and make sure you get the full burger and make sure you still only pay $4.99 for the full meal.
Yeah.
But that's a choice the business makes, though.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's the consumer paying that increased price.
They'll pass it off to the consumer. Absolutely. So what it does then
it's not Argentina or wherever the beef comes from.
Yep. If you want the beef, then they're passing it off to you. Say, yep, that's just the way it goes, sir. If you want it, you're gonna have to pay for it. So you have a choice. Do I get the Argentinian beef, or maybe do I look inside the United States where it's not getting tariffed? Maybe it's homegrown, and you might make a switch. Okay.
So that's my other beef about this whole system.
Beef. I like it. Pun intended.
Yeah. American companies who are sourcing inside the United States, and are supposed to be benefiting from that whole process by now having lower prices, and as a result, more business. You studied economics. What happens in supply and demand? When that demand for those American products increases, what goes up with it?
It can increase price. But it
will increase price.
There's two ways to look at it. There's at least two ways you can look at that too. So say I'm a business person in America and I'm producing fitness equipment for your guy, Anthony, right?
Okay.
Let's use that as an example.
All right.
If Anthony normally gets it sourced from China, and they're now saying we're going to increase the price for you because we have to deal with these Trump tariffs.
Right.
If I was a smart American business person, I would want to know what's the increase in price, because what Anthony's looking for is top quality and the best price available for the same equipment. And if I could get it to him in shorter time in terms of transit, that's a formula for me to win his business, right? So I'm looking at that from the standpoint of, can I produce the same top end equipment, sourced organically in America, and if I can provide a cost savings to Anthony and get the time cut down when he gets the equipment, I can earn his business for the long term. And even if I just do a slight increase in price, as long as it's still less expensive than what he's currently doing sourcing it from China, I win.
Sure.
So what the other aim is here too with the Trump tariffs is, and it's not being talked much about, this actually is a good stance or a good move for American owned and grown businesses to really step their game up competitively to say, hey, listen, Trump's actually doing us a favor against our foreign competition in China and all these other places. If we can be able to get our act together, source our stuff internally so it doesn't get a tariff, provide comparable pricing, preferably lower than what our competition is offering, and get it to our people quicker because we're already in the United States. We don't have to ship our product literally. If you can do all three things, guess what? People should be flocking to you rather than continue to source their product in China, which then that lost business in China would mean to them, oh, snap, I'm getting hurt, because it makes more sense for them to get it in the United States. So honestly, that actually is a good move for American owned and grown businesses if they see the opportunity here.
Austin, I hope that you're still with us. Austin Kittleson says, for the love of God, please Google or at least ask AI how tariffs work instead of pontificating. Well, I'm glad you suggested that concept, Austin, because not only have I Googled, but I've gone back to an expert on this very issue, and we're going to hear from him right now. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Hold on. There we go.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering.
Did you see that hand on the side of the screen?
Yeah.
Did you see that? I watched this whole thing earlier. I did not. See if we can go back, and I think it's going to be right about there. Yeah. Watch the right side of the screen.
Mhm.
Something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
Was
On
that
top of
Nan-
that, there's somebody sitting
that
in the chair
Nancy?
behind him. Do you see that?
was that Nancy?
But that's a right shoulder and a right arm sitting there. Why
Mhm.
is that in the background? Like, is he in a barber shop? Who's sitting up against the wall, just sitting there while the president's reading a weekly radio address?
Well, clearly this is not the contemporary press room that Caroline works out of nowadays, or the
No,
Oval Office here. It's just kind of.
I don't know. This might. I've never been inside at Camp David, so I don't know if this is something.
Oh, is
that's
that where it's
there.
from? Okay.
It might be, or this
Okay.
this also might be in California at his
Mm,
ranch,
okay.
which judging by the photos on the wall,
And the
is what I
wall
saw.
itself.
Yeah, that whole 1970s wood paneling.
Yeah.
All right, so I saw you shaking your head yes, that this doesn't end well.
Right. So
Ultimately.
what I was nodding to, Ross, was if you have American owned and grown businesses dependent off of the tariffs to think,
Yeah.
oh, I don't really have to do much, I'm protected by this. That basically handicaps you for the time when tariffs become a thing of the past. right? Because this doesn't last forever. At some point, the tariffs are going away and we go back to normalcy, right? So if you're dependent off that, you're setting yourself up to lose. The second part of what President Reagan said here too was the competition, the innovation. If you're just resting on your laurels here and not figuring out, okay, I just got a great opportunity to get in front of the foreign competitors and provide something better for everyone domestically. Let me make sure I can source my product internally, provide a better price for people, and get it to them quicker than foreign, and just get that word out to as many people as possible and get as much business secured that way, then it's a lost opportunity for you. But the question becomes there, how many businesses are likely to be aggressive on that front end to take advantage of this opportunity in front of them?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with President Reagan there.
Wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition.
Yeah. So do you see a point when either or both sides will actually say, enough is enough, let's wipe some of these out?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this really just a mechanism to raise prices so that when the tariffs are removed,
Mm-hmm.
the exporter, importer, manufacturer, somebody leaves the price alone
Mm-hmm.
and pockets that difference, as opposed to passing that savings onto the consumer and keeping a profit at a certain percentage?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely witnesses and bystanders of a great global pissing contest right now.
Yeah,
Right?
no, 100%.
The missing element here we haven't talked about is the role of pride and ego right now. Right? So
Oh, believe me,
it
you need to tune in the other 4 days a week. I am sick of talking about somebody's particular ego.
so no one wants to lose to Trump, right? Um, and so, of course, I would anticipate they probably anticipated too. The moment you raise your tariffs and that sort, you start imposing these tariffs on country A, country B, country C. The majority of those leaders don't want to go down without a fight either.
Yeah,
So they don't want to come off as like, oh, I succumbed, bowed to the knee, kissed the ring of President Trump Almighty. So
right,
what do you think they're likely going to do? They're going to raise tariffs on their end too. So
right.
now it's a question of playing chicken. Who's going to fold first?
Like Trump did twice already with Canada and Mexico. And not necessarily fold, but, kick it down the road and say, we'll wait a month, which
Mm-hmm.
also makes no sense. If these are such a great thing, and if tariffs are his favorite word, as he
Mm-hmm.
says they are,
Mm-hmm.
why not say, screw Mexico and Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Here's 25%. It's on now. Sucks to be you. Why would he roll that back for another month and give them the opportunity to do whatever, even if it was something they've already done and now they're just getting recredit for it, like moving 10,000 troops to a border or working with limiting fentanyl coming over a border?
Well, it goes back to a lot of people often say it's a negotiation ploy to start. Negotiation is my favorite N word. So listen, you got to think about it. Oftentimes people are going to say, hey, is Ross bluffing or is he for real? Sometimes you got to hit him with a stick first and say, oh, snap, I guess he is for real. All right, let's talk again. Oh, maybe there's some concessions made. Okay, maybe we'll give you some grace, give you some goodwill here. We'll back off a little bit. But if you screw me again, I'm going to hit you across the head with a bag of rocks next time.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think that you're talking to a guy that literally wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. Like I'm looking at it at my bookshelf right now. He literally wrote the book, The Art of the Deal.
Even he didn't. There was a ghostwriter for that,
I'm
right?
sure there was. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure there was, but his name is on the front of the book. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't buy it because the ghostwriter's name is on it. They write it because Trump's face is on the book.
Exactly.
So it's just like, yeah, like we can't be remiss of to think that, of course, there's probably some element here. We're not at the negotiation table. We got to understand that, Trump's team is going about things a certain way to get a reaction, to let people know if he's serious or not. And yeah, it's going a back and forth sort of thing. And we're just kind of in Trump's world, and we're witnessing it all together. We're just living in it at this point.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up here, and then we got to wrap up the first hour. How long are you with us today? You got to run, or what are you up to?
Let me take a look here.
All right. We'll play this while you're checking the calendar.
Yep.
So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well.
Has hit the wall hard. The car is upside down.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization.
This is a Facebook video, and I ran into that issue before. It goes right to the next video, which is Michael Waltrip and some,
And you can see the car is
that the way to prosperity.
I don't know why the hell that's still happening, but it goes right to the next video, and it's a really bad wreck with Michael Waltrip in Bristol.
Is that trying to foreshadow something?
What? This is like from 1990. I don't even think he's Michael Waltrip is Darrell Waltrip's son, who was a big racer in the 70s and 80s. I don't even think Michael's racing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's something Mike. Oh, this is killing me. The next video after that is something I would actually watch. It's hockey fights from like the 60s. Back when not only did you not wear a face mask of any kind, you didn't even wear a helmet. Nobody did.
Jeez. What if the puck hits you?
That's why they don't have any teeth.
Oh gosh, no thank you.
Yeah. Welcome to the NHL.
No head left, I guess.
Okay, so I've got another video with Reagan, but I don't think we need to beat a dead horse. I mean, I think we kind of know there's a time and place for tariffs. And I think that there's just a large percentage of people that are not in agreement with Trump. Now it's not the time. Now is not the time.
And the problem, I would say, too, and this is another element to it, too, Ross, even to your friend in Momentum. Yeah. I don't know if maybe he has some sort of long-term contract or agreement with this particular exporter that obligates him to order from him only. It might be an exclusive. It might be an exclusive deal where it's like he's locked in for a certain period of time because maybe he thought he could save money getting it outside of America versus in America, and he might be in a situation where it's just like, hey, I'm stuck with this. I can't get out of it without any sort of legal recourse, and that sucks. As opposed to if you have a more flexible arrangement and say, hey, I can kind of pick and choose any point in time, then that might lead you to be more, adaptable in this situation to get only America-based companies where you don't have this issue necessarily.
Right. All right. I got to take a break. When we come back in the second hour, it's going to be what's left here. Court orders. When are they valid? Are they valid verbally from the bench or not till they're written? We've got some experts saying one thing, and we've got our favorite expert, not Philip, with Caroline saying something else. This is Up the Middle. We'll be back right after this. Where's the long one? This is going to be a couple of minutes. I got a pee break. Be right back. All right, we're back. And I got to bring that back up just in case. There we go. All right, so a judge makes an order from the bench. Does the world know it? Is there anything that can be done to enforce it right away? The Trump administration doesn't think so. And so I got to get rid of, I think I have that. Yeah, here we go. The Trump administration doesn't think so. And so we'll see what exactly Caroline Leavitt has to say when she's pressed on the issue by CNN.
The White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
But what about the verbal order?
So what they're talking about are the planes that were carrying alleged gang members, mostly, who were being deported as per the administration's policy on immigration. And they're saying that because they departed prior to the written order being issued, the written order is too late. And that the verbal order, she's going to say it in a minute, does not have the legal weight of the written order. So even though they knew it was coming, the Trump administration is making the argument that officially it didn't come yet, so we don't have to listen to it. We'll see that every legal expert I found so far not agree with that. But here's the rest of the clip with her, and I forget the journalist's name, but she's from CNN.
Which, of course, carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were
Well,
in the air.
there's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions in court.
Okay, so she's saying there are from who? And this is my beef every time there's some so-called question by this administration. They don't tell you where the source is, who the source is, where this question comes from, where this legal argument is. I know you're not an attorney, but any experiences you've had, where do they get off saying, we're just going to go anyway and see what happens?
You don't know until you actually test it out. It seems like that seems like where the strategy's coming here.
And you think that's okay?
Listen, some people often say rules are made to be broken, right? I'm not necessarily a proponent
Not
of
by
that.
the president of the United States.
I understand. And once again, I'm not at the table. I'm not in those cabinet meetings. I'm not on the phone with the president, what they're thinking about, strategizing about in Mar-a-Lago. What I can say, though, is once again, this is one of those elements where Trump is definitely promising change on a vast level. Everything's on the negotiating table to be questioned and explored. And I do see this as like more so as like, if we push the envelope, let's see what happens, sort of thing. And if it gets refuted, if it gets rebutted, then at least we're saying, hey, we went about it. Blame the other people, blame the other judge, right? But you definitely don't want a timid president who was promising, full out change here that a lot of people were wanting. So that's also
what I do want is a respectful one.
I get it.
That
I
knows
agree with
his
you.
place in society, that
I
doesn't
agree.
think he's above the law, which is, there's one thing legislating from the bench, but this is another thing when a decision has been made on legislation and now it's passed down and they go, nah.
No, I get it, because my thing, Ross. You know me well enough to know it's not so much a partisan thing for me. It's what's the precedent we're setting here? Because if Trump does this, what precludes the other side from doing the exact same thing when it's their turn? We don't want to repeat some of Biden's misgivings either, where it's just like, hey, you said, hey, don't give people bailouts and student loans. And then Biden's like, oh, that's all right. I'm going to give them bailouts anyway. I'm on my way out. Right?
Not good, not appropriate, but this isn't Biden's fault.
I get it, but I'm saying in the sense, like, to your
As
point,
as my parents would say, two wrongs don't make a right.
I agree with you. I say, listen, they said checks and balances for a reason. They taught us separation of powers in civics class for a reason. At some point, you have to have the buck stop somewhere. And if you can just easily just question or even try to remove a judge because it wasn't what you were looking to do,
that's another thing that's making me crazy.
That's what makes me a little concerned here.
Just because you were the one that was wrong in the first place.
There has to be some sort of right that you just say, you know what? We argued our case. It didn't work. It didn't get the decision we wanted. All right, we got to move on.
And you see Trump doing that like ever?
Sometimes, not all the time.
When? I missed all of them. When?
Maybe I'll pick that up as homework or something. But
yeah,
I do look at that as like eventually he had to move on from 2020. At some point, you had to keep fighting.
And he still hasn't admitted he lost.
I know, but it just. I'm glad he just be able.
And this is what I love about that one. His own Department of Homeland Security identified the 2020 election as the most secure election in history.
And they had to. Otherwise, their jobs were definitely on the line.
None of them are employed anymore anyways. Cut everything.
You got to
come out. Necessary, whether they were
go out on the high note.
Necessary cuts or not.
You got to go out on the high note, Ross. Hey, compared to all the other elections across our nation's history, this one in the COVID pandemic, that was the most secure. Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe, but I'll let you say it. That's fine.
So Avo, sorry, is a legal website. It doesn't give you legal advice, but at least you get a start. And one of the questions I found is a verbal order by the judge constitute a court order if it's not on paper? Now, this is about custody and returning a son to a particular school, but it's still, in fact, the only two questions I found about this very issue both dealt with family law and custody. Well, I think that's kind of close to immigration law in that we're sending somebody back to their original school, whether the judge told them to or not. It just so happens that school's in another country. So here is what Pardis Patrick Ashuri from Tarzana, California. An order pronounced from the bench is an order, and there is a record, the transcript. You've explained there's a way to enroll your child in his old school. Oh, he was talking about the thing, the actual question. So if there's a violation of that order, other parent could seek a contempt order. Best to consult the Florida lawyer to seek advice about your. They're always going to put that in,
of course,
so they can't say, "Well, this attorney online told me to do this." Yeah, but that was the one. There's some answers from this one, but there's another one where it's pretty. I mean, this is cut and dry. When are orders given? I don't know how these people speak. When are orders given verbally in court by a judge enforceable? So again, same question, not exactly worded very intelligently, but again, is an oral order from the bench effective immediately? Especially when, by the way, the judge said it was effective immediately. So here's an answer. Thomas Allen Neal from Sacramento, California. Orders are effective the moment they are uttered by the judge, regardless if they are yet in writing. Police officers might not enforce it until you have a written order to show them. If the other side doesn't sign the order in a reasonable time, say 15 days after receiving it, then your attorney can submit the order to the judge along with his cover letter to the other side, asking them to sign it that he wrote when he sent it to the opposing attorney. In other words, being served. But again, orders are effective the moment they're uttered by the judge. These are attorneys that probably would go up against each other in court and try to change their opinion if they were on another side. But blindly asked, they're all saying that it's the verbal order that takes precedence as far as a time frame. Where do they get this? I get that there's an argument here that, like, here's a time frame, here was the verbal order, there's the planes going wheels up, and then over here was when the written order finally came out. And they're challenging that. But when that's already been challenged, when there is a certain standard in an industry, such as law, who do you think you are that you just come out and say, well, we're going to push that envelope that you mentioned earlier, or that rules were made to be broken? Again, at what point do you say, like you said about industry and tariffs, at what point should the president finally say, the buck does stop with me, and I'm going to set that example and abide by the law? It doesn't say that I can't deport them. It's just that even they are entitled to due process. And I've got such a strong case because I've got a mandate. So it's going to happen. Let it play out. Why does he force issues like this and let those planes take off and not be recalled like the judge ordered to?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I think first off, to your point, Ross, like, listen, a verbal order, once a judge makes a judgment, that's the decision. It's verbal. I'm assuming that everything's being transcribed by somebody, if not by AI nowadays. So
Yeah.
it's going to be in written form. The judge rules this.
The one said that the other one we showed. Let me scroll up here a second. The transcript.
Yep. So it's
Order
going to be in.
pronounced on the bench is an order, and there is a record. The transcript.
Yep. So it's there. It's the judgment's been made. The decision's been made. Right. When Supreme Court justices make their decisions, they share their opinions, right? That corroborate what they just ruled on. I guess some people try to figure out, okay, when does it become effective? So do I have some wiggle room to try to get some things done between the time the verbal order has been issued and the time it's been written up, and now it's a written order that says, nope, this is proof, the decision's been made. If you go against this, there's consequences. The only way this opinion goes away is if you appeal it. So that goes into the whole process. If you appeal it to a higher judge or a higher court, and then they say the lower court judge decision is no longer valid, then fine. But to your point, there is a process that we've been living under for over 200 years. And I am a fan of abiding by that. It may not always get what we want, but at least I have faith that as much as possible, we're trying to uphold an equal sense of justice for people, regardless of party lines.
Yeah. And I can't say that's been happening with this administration.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're looking to get rid of illegal immigrants, but you can't tell me that all of the illegal immigrants here are just the brown people, and that this isn't a race-based movement. I don't see anybody coming over the Canadian border and being arrested on suspicion of being Canadian. And
It's easier to spot and make an assumption based off what you see. I get it.
Yeah.
Or what you hear in terms of accent, right? That's where xenophobia comes to play.
100%. Yeah. And I've seen two separate stories now of Trump supporters who are from the Latin community, the Latino community, whose wives have been deported for whatever reason. One was a green card in good standing.
Okay.
And she was yanked out of the house. Yanked out of the house. That was another thing. Weren't we only supposedly going after the violent offenders?
That was what I was thinking. At least for the first line of business, for sure.
And now when we talk about race and other issues and DEI and this whole, where one, I think, really is going into the other. The plane that dropped the bombs on Japan at the end of World War II, or at least would cause the end of the Pacific Theater, was named the Enola Gay.
Okay.
Gay.
Okay.
Written on the side of the plane.
Mm-hmm.
That was taken off the Department of Defense website because it had the word gay. Enola Gay. Gay, by the way, is oftentimes a woman's first name. And this particular woman...
Could it be a nickname for Gail, too?
Possibly. I can see that. But this particular woman had two first names. It was Enola Gay.
Gay, yep.
It was the wife of the pilot of the plane. A straight couple. And yet that gets yanked off. I think, let me ask you this. Do you think the MAGA right would be as anti DEI, and I'm going to bring it back to the court orders in a second,
Yep.
that they would be as anti DEI if they actually had to say the words diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Mm-hmm.
Would they be as against that as what they seem to be today?
Well, it's always easier to abbreviate things because it makes it easier to say it and blurt it out in rally cries and messaging that riles up a certain audience and that sort. I also think, to your point with the what was it? I want to get the name right.
Enola, gay.
Angola gay, right?
Enola.
Yeah, Enola gay, right?
Yep.
I can also, as a perfect example there too, Ross, where it's just people make a snap judgment and think, oh, that's dealing with a gay ship. I don't want that. Take it down. No one ever takes like the extra added effort to understand, okay, what was that name for? Was that name for a person? What's the story behind that? Oh, okay. It just coincidentally has gay in it. But even if that was an issue to you, it wasn't named for you. It was named to honor somebody else. So you can have your opinion about it, you can have your feelings about it, but that's not reason to just all of a sudden try to take stuff off just so it makes you feel better. So even with the DEI part,
Well, you mentioned something else too, is the snap judgment. Look at all the firings that happened by Doge. And we talked about this yesterday. The court ordered, and the administration is actually going with it and proceeding to implement the rehiring of 25,000 people that were fired.
That's expensive.
Yeah. I mean, aren't we causing more money? And keep in mind, some of these people that were fired were employees at the IRS. What is it right now? What time of year are we in? Especially if you work at the IRS. Exactly. Tax season. You want to fire them now? Or the VA, an agency that has been begging, even with the improvements that they've had during both the Trump or the Biden or the Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations, even with 3 administrations making improvements on them, they're still begging for more employees. And that one alone, I remember, I don't want to say the number now because I'm not sure of it, but that was in the tens of thousands, just that department alone. So you talked about snap judgments. When are we going to say, Elon, you don't know what you're doing? You might fire somebody live on Joe Rogan who worked for Twitter and now no longer works for X. Right. But that doesn't work when a government isn't here for profit. It's here for service. And if we break even or even go a little negative, but still are improving society, that's the profit that we're here for. And I just don't think that's being adhered to or even considered. And that goes back to ordering from the bench and things that are already written. And that is the due process. Are they ignoring that altogether? The Trump administration as a whole.
Once again, we're keeping in mind the missing elements here. Pride and ego, sir. I think one of the things that comes off is when you have a tall, quote unquote, mandate to issue widespread change, little by little, trying to go by the rules, by the books, make sure the judges are okay with it, the petitions, that sort of thing. It's likely not going to cut it for a lot of the people out there. They want to see someone with a sword slashing heads, taking names, just instant, right? The problem goes Part of our system is here for a reason. This isn't the only time that people wanted widespread change and they could just kind of get away with it necessarily without coming across the process, the due process, the structure, separation of powers, the checks and balances, right? And so when you're thinking about it from that standpoint, that's a lot of firings, a lot of rehirings. Part of me thinks to myself, I understand the intent. I understand what you were trying to do, but could there have been a better place, a better way to handle this where you can accomplish what you're looking to accomplish without that possibility of, oh, nope, you can't do that. You have to rehire everybody that you just fired. Because all that takes time and money, and that is a big boo-boo and black eye you just get for your efforts of government efficiency.
When it's actually causing more waste than what it's supposed to eliminate. Yeah, superfan Ken Williams checking in, saying good afternoon. He doesn't think the MAGA right knows what DEI actually is, and I've seen it. I too have seen a video. That backs
about
that up,
messaging.
whether it's MAGA right or
it's
somebody.
about messaging.
Yeah.
If I could just pin it on the other person, DEI, DEI, DEI. Yeah. I don't like the other person. I don't like the other side. Okay, I don't like the other side. Who they're for? DEI. Okay, I don't like it either. What's DEI? I don't know, but it's the other side. I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
And that's one of the things I've said people need to do better on, and that is, I saw some guy walk by the window. That is doing their own homework. You know that I want to show you something else too from the political library of stuff that I've got.
That's also the result too, Ross, why you pull it up, of the TikTokization of our culture now. Everyone's looking for snap judgments and reactions off of 10 seconds of actual content, a headline, enough to get you all emotional and have an opinion without any thought of, will I actually read the article first? Will I actually watch the full video? Will I actually do some research of my own to make sure I fully understand what's going on both sides here? Nope. We just want you to react, get upset, angry emojis, get in the comments, get in your feelings, and just keep the toxicity going.
Yeah, this is with regards to that toxicity and that whole other guy thing that you talked about. This is something I got a little while ago. See, let's clear that out for a minute. We'll come back with more comments. Well, this is actually relevant right now. Ken says they equate DEI to black people. I'm about to show something else that it's also equated to. And the irony is I just got in a Facebook fight the other day with a girl from high school.
Okay.
That I knew. A girlfriend is in like female acquaintance.
Oh, okay.
Her mom was one of our bus drivers growing up as kids through elementary school. And the fact is, it was DEI when it was implemented initially in the 60s and in this case the 70s that got that woman her job. Because women were not driving large vehicles until the 70s, when some of them were helping on farms and were used to driving things like tractors, would be comfortable also driving a bus. But one of my heroes makes a good point about wokeism. Howard Stern says he loves being woke. Now, this is only part of it. There's another one I have somewhere that's a little better. But it says, or that I love people who want to be transgender or I'm for a vaccine. Dude, call me as woke as you effing want. He actually, of course, says the whole word. I'm not for stupidity. I'm a woke mother effer, and I love it. Yeah, it's not, for me, it's not necessarily about liberalism. because there are plenty of things about me, as much as Blake Fisher and Matt Deemer, my Friday co-hosts, won't admit. There are plenty of things about me that are actually conservative. I'm not about progressivism, liberalism, conservatism, MAGA-ism, any of the isms, as much as I'm about balance.
Mhm.
And I think that's what a judge and justices are also supposed to be.
Yep.
And I think in many cases, most cases, try to be. I mean, I think we have the Eileen Cannons and also what we used to call the Ninth Circuit, which is a very left-leaning circuit, is the real word in the
It's
federal
like
court
that
system.
doesn't sound right.
Yep. You know, we called it the Ninth Circuit. And that it was very left. And that's a problem, is that where is all this interpretation coming from when right there is the law? What is there to interpret? But anyway, now I'm starting to get on a rambling thing. I got to take a break. We've got about you're actually a little late. Yeah, you got to go. Okay. All right. We'll see you again next week. Check out Philip Blackett at his socials, at Philip Blackett, Philip with one L, Blackett with two T's. And I'll also put the QR code up there for you as well, his books. And also your newest project, Life After 40. And that one is not on Amazon. Did I remember that right?
It's just free for the public.
Yep.
So,
yep. Okay. Life After 40. Scan that. And let's see, I think I know. Yeah, the URL, if you don't have the QR code in front of you, if you're listening on the radio, go to Life After the number 40 book.com is the actual URL that the QR code will take you to. So, all right, my friend, I'll see you in a week.
always a pleasure, sir.
Or, yeah, unless you stop by Friday, I'll see you in a week. All right, pal. Thanks for joining. Philip Blackett, our resident Trump translator. So I think I almost, on certain levels, won him over of sorts, that he's not going to, and I'm not expecting him to talk smack about an administration that he supports. But I mean, at least, and he is that demographic that David Beckmeyer from Outrage Overload told us about. I initially thought, before this most recent presidential election, with all the people that have been getting off the Trump train, as Phil Repko had referred to. He just sent me, we'll have to look at this in the remaining 35 minutes before he checked out. He sent me an alert. Israel sends ground troops into Gaza. Don't we have a ceasefire? And Blake Fisher, if you're still on your hike around the country or your camping excursion around the country, will you now finally admit that I was right and that we're in a world war? Why is, and I didn't even get to ask him about Yemen and the Trump assault on the Houthis. I'm not kidding you. When I first heard that Trump did an air assault on the Houthis, yeah, he says, guess we have to hold off on those Gaza towers. Yeah, I don't think those will be coming right away, if anytime soon. He said we had to hold. We had to hold off. He said I saw that he did airstrikes on the Houthis, and I'm like, what the hell does he have to do with Indiana? I thought it was Hoosiers. And now, somebody can't even look in through a damn window. All right, I got to play some music and get rid of the guy at the door. Be right back. All right. So enough rambling. We've got two. We're at World War, and it's now apparently, possibly, here in the United States. Before Philip signed off, we have J Ballesteros 11 on Instagram. Stay a little longer. We have breaking news on two fronts. One, Israel has sent ground troops into Gaza. And we'll bring that up just so that it's there for right now. But two, shots fired outside the headquarters of CIA. As you know, that is an agency that during my time in Secret Service I have worked with. I have other friends and such who are there. Let's go. Let's see. Here we go. Reuters. Let's go live with Reuters and see what they have going on. I recognize that's one of the gates. And I saw that in some of the in some of the writing that we just saw, that SWAT teams have been deployed. I remember one of the shootings that happened at one of the gates. It was just one of the officers. In fact, one of the CIA police officers passed away in that shooting. That wasn't near as intense as what you're seeing on the screen right now. And for those of you joining through audio only or radio, we just got two reports as he was signing off. One is that shots have been fired outside the headquarters of the CIA. That's right off the George Washington Parkway. So that's in the the northeast corner of the property of the CIA camp, which is where one of the main gates is at. And this might be in the northwest corner, but the northern border of the CIA property in Langley, Virginia, is the George Washington Parkway. Langley is essentially the town, if you will, that is the CIA headquarters. It's actually in another town that is McLean, Virginia. Let's see if we can get some other actual information about it besides just going to the live video of what's happening there. Gunman opens fire outside CIA headquarters in Virginia. From second shooters, CIA, what new documents on? Oh, no, that's apparently JFK assassination documents have been released this week too. So this is apparently kind of in conjunction with the release. CIA headquarters swarmed by cops over man with a gun, as SWAT is called in just hours after JFK files were released. This seems to be nothing more than... Oh, there we go. Initially, witnesses reported shots were fired. However, local ABC affiliate WJLA, who interviewed me with my dog bite, reported that a law enforcement officer confirmed no shots were fired and no one was injured during the incident. A passerby of the incident called the police response massive, with an entire entrance to Langley, Virginia headquarters being blocked off by police officers, military vehicles, and fire trucks rushing to assist. Journalist Andrew Layden posted on Twitter that the subject has fired multiple rounds into the air. Traffic alerts from the Fairfax County Police warned residents of road closures due to a barricade incident at CIA HQ. CIA has confirmed that there were threats at the gate, which is less than 10 miles from Washington, D.C., but has yet to provide any further details about the incident. The CIA and local cops didn't immediately respond to the U.S. Sun's request for comment. Live stream of the incidents on Facebook shows dozens of officers gathered. The incident Wednesday morning isn't the first time that danger has surrounded the CIA headquarters. That's what I talked about a moment ago. This is going back to prior, incidents, which nobody really cares about. They're not related to this. So that is the U.S. Sun. I saw another one this is from my home market initially. Fox 29 in Philadelphia. Multiple roads around Fairfax County have been shut down. What we know, there appears to be a SWAT team, Arlington County, and Fairfax County officials on the scene gearing up, along with other officials gearing down. A bomb squad also appears to be on the scene as well. It is unconfirmed if there is a bomb in the area. Well, here's the thing, just in case there is, don't put your little media headquarters too close to it. According to the Fairfax County Police, Dolly Madison Boulevard is shut down in both directions between Georgetown Park and Seville Lane because of the barricade incident. And that's photos of what they put on their social media and so on. So really nothing more on that right now. The Times now, okay, so we had that one article where the one journalist walking by said that there were shots fired into the air. This is 8 minutes ago. Times Now. Times Now World says, gunman opens fire. Outside CIA headquarters in Virginia, heavy police deployed. A gunman fired shots outside CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, prompting a massive police response. The attack followed former President Trump's release of JFK assassination files. The CIA has yet to release any additional statements regarding the security threat. So here's just one thing, coming from somebody who's analyzed security threats and gave information to bosses for release to the public. That's not something I ever did. I was not in that position. But this is at least two media accounts now who have associated this with the release of Kennedy assassination documents. Just because it's in that timely of a fashion doesn't mean anything. It could say that the CIA was guilty. You have no idea what's in the mind of this person, who, by the way, nobody has said where that person is. Are they still barricaded? Are they in custody? Why are people gearing down and others gearing up if this is over? And why, if it's not over, why are they gearing down there? A major security incident unfolded outside the CIA headquarters in Langley on Wednesday after a man armed with a gun reportedly fired multiple shots into the air. So here's another consistency. Here's another news source saying that shots were fired into the air. And made threats near an entry gate. Authorities quickly responded, leading to a heavy police and SWAT team presence at the scene. The attack comes just hours after former President Donald Trump authorized the release of 80,000 pages of previously classified documents related to the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Eyewitnesses described massive law enforcement responses as police officers, military vehicles, and fire trucks rushed to the facility. Roads leading to the CIA campus were shut down as authorities worked to contain the threat. Here it is again. Journalist Andrew Layden, reporting from the scene, posted on Twitter, subject has fired multiple rounds into the air. The CIA confirmed that threats have been made at the gate, but did not immediately provide further details regarding the suspect or potential motive. Both the agency and law enforcement have yet to respond to requests for comment. A live Facebook stream of the incident showed a number of large officers gathered around. This is the exact same thing that we already read. The files, long sought after by researchers and historians, may shed new light on speculation surrounding the CIA's alleged involvement in Kennedy's death. In accordance with President Donald Trump's directive on March 17, 2025, all records previously withheld for classification that are part of the President John F. Kennedy assassination records collection are released. Trump addressed the public regarding the declassification, stating, "You have a lot of reading to do." Historians and analysts are divided over whether the newly released documents will clarify lingering doubts about Kennedy's assassination. Why would you speculate about that? That's why. All right, we're either going to find more up-to-date info or we're going to go cover Gaza. Mailing. Yeah, these are just more Mafia link, second shooter, and CIA warnings. I knew all of that. Oh, here we go. Was Donald Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks a setup by FBI, CIA, and Secret Service? Another this one I actually believe is possible. Another theory proposes the incident. This is going back to Butler, Pennsylvania, in July of last year. I'm not saying this is what's happened. I'm saying this is the one that's much more plausible. In fact, it was my first reaction. Another theory proposes the incident was a false flag operation orchestrated by Trump's own campaign to portray him as a heroic figure. Yeah, that's an option. All right, let's go to Israel in the 20 minutes we got left. I'll send these over to Sportcat, make sure he follows up. I can get rid of the segment timer. I think we're done with that for the day. David Levengood from Boyertown, Pennsylvania, messaged me directly through Facebook, looking to try to get into. Apparently, only some of the platforms are connected with the chat. Twitch, both accounts on up the middle. Both accounts on YouTube, 2 accounts on Facebook, Up the Middle Radio Show, and Ross Yerger. D Live and That one should be, but I don't think that's live anymore either. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Am I only doing 7 today? That can't be right. Yeah, because the 8th one is Instagram, and that's not connected. So David says, I don't know how to comment on your radio show, so putting it here. Ebola was the mother of the pilot, Colonel Tibbets, who was piloting the plane. Oh, Enola. Ebola is a disease. Enola, your guest alluded to that happening quickly and make mistakes. Isn't that why this Doge crap shouldn't be happening without more scrutiny of what they think they found? Yeah, I've been saying that. The maggots that keep blowing up about how many dollars are supposedly being saved by this program being cut and that program being cut. Nobody ever said that it was actually waste. All you've tabulated are money that are no longer being spent based on the fact that somebody that knows nothing about the program or the agency or the department has willy-nilly cut it from the budget. And that's like what we talked about, like with the nuclear people, even people that, as a probationary employee, you were there until you establish tenure, or what we call career status, meaning you've completed a probationary period. During, they're supposed to be able to terminate you at any time. The judge says that even that has to be done with due process, and it was not. Yes, it's Enola. David writes back saying, I changed that word twice and still went through wrong. Yeah, it's Enola Gay, Enola, second word, gay, Gay. And he is saying, David is saying that it's the mother of the pilot. I thought it was his wife, but either way, it has nothing to do with homosexuality. And again, not like that would actually be a bad thing, but so Netanyahu says this is only the beginning after deadly airstrikes. I'm not going to click on the New York Times one because I've used all my free New York Times articles, and I'll only get what I just read to you before it blocks me. Here, this is key. Why Israel broke the Gaza ceasefire. And I saw something like this coming when over the weekend, T-Rump and I celebrated, tongue-in-cheek, celebrated Monday that we as a nation are back to bombing brown people. And we should be excited. That era of whatever he said it was is here. We're bombing brown people. And anyway, I'm just going to put this big search in the chat for Sportcat. That is and this is CIA shooting. I'll put that, and I'm doing just the there we go. I'm doing just the Google search just so he can take it from there. if you're listening, Sportcat, not that I'm doing your job for you, but this is obviously stuff that, as journalists, I should be passing to you because you're up next. Speaking of which, in less than 15 minutes, Glenn Sportcat Jackson will be taking over with Sportcat's Daily Gazette. If you're listening to us on Yerg's Radio and Radio X, he's live right after me in about 14 minutes from now. He's going to be covering these stories and more. He doesn't know about the JFK files, though. 80K pages released this morning, right before CIA incident. And again, I'm not saying one has anything to do with the other, but I'm telling Sportcat that because that's what everybody else is saying. We report, you decide, as Fox News used to say, until they decided for you. And then the other thing, I think if we do the handoff, if he comes with me here and we both go live on video, and then we have, I don't know what exactly I have playing for the top of the hour on Yerg's Radio. He's got some other things he's got to do. Get out of that habit, man. Be ready moments before. Be sitting there waiting. Trust me. So you're back to Netanyahu. That's Rubio. Oh, I didn't even get to that. This is key.
The U.S. Secretary of State, the top diplomat in the Trump administration, says his delegation wants to listen to Ukraine.
That we'll get to that tomorrow. But this is key. How much? I got 10 minutes. Yeah, let's do this as a minute. This is Senator Marco Rubio talking about Ukraine and how we should be protecting them.
When the Soviet Union fell in the early 1990s, Ukraine was left with the world's third largest stockpile of tactical nuclear weapons and strategic nuclear weapons on the planet. But they signed this agreement with the United States, the United Kingdom, and Russia that basically said, if you give up your nuclear weapons, we, these three countries that signed to this, will provide for your defense and assure you of your defense. And so Ukraine did that. They gave up these weapons. Well, now, this was signed in 1994, 20 years later, one of the three countries that signed that agreement hasn't just not provided for their defense, they actually invaded them. And I want to make a point on this for a second. Think about if you're one of these other countries around the world right now that feels threatened by your neighbors. And the United States and the rest of the world are going to you and saying, listen, don't develop nuclear weapons. We will protect you. We will watch out for you. What kind of lesson do you think this instance sends to them? I think the message this is sending to many nations around the world is perhaps we can no longer count on the security promises made by the free world.
Well, weren't you saying something about Hillary's words coming back to bite her in the ass yesterday, Sportcat? Going to send you this link too. I'd love to see what you have to say about that. We'll definitely be talking about that again tomorrow, though. So yeah, let's do some plugs here. Get everybody on their way to the next show. There we are. Take that off. What's a kid want? Kid wants money. That was my son texting me. See what he's going on. I just had someone ask. I was looking at it and said, the answer still fucks. So I'm trying to think of what to do. He keeps going back to a guy that doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying mine is that much better, but at least it's a little better. I'm getting a message here on David Levingood from trying to get a photo. Yeah, it's not coming through. I don't know what it is with some of the Apple stuff on. That's a photo. It's not coming through on my computer, so I can't use it. But David Levingood from Boyertown, I think he's actually down here right now. Oh, there it is. Sent a photo of from. I think this is from when Ukraine was in the Oval Office. It's too small of a photo. I can't use it. But it's Rubio and Vance sitting aside of each other on a sofa in the Oval Office, and Vance has this like has this look in his face like, "Hey, I'm in the Oval Office," and Rubio's like, "Oh God, I'm in the Oval Office again." All right, if you want to be a pen pal, or more than likely, if you're somewhere where you would love to let us know where you're at, you just don't want to say that you're listening, so maybe you want to sign up for a vacation, write me at Yergz, YERGZ, at ShayYergz.com. That's spelled CHEZYERGZ.com. And whatever you write about whatever you like. Just tell us where you're writing from, so that it's Kyiv, Gaza, Moscow, any place like that. We'll know to keep the stories coming. If you're anywhere in the northern Tampa Bay or Nature Coast, sign up for the Sea Ranch Civic Association in Pasco County, Florida. Go to mysrca.com. Good group of people. Definitely enjoyable activities and growing each month. The Capital Switchboard is area code 202-224-3121. Call your senators, call your congressmen, and tell them Doge gotta go. Less than 2 weeks, we start on DNR Studios with Derek and Romaine. Go to dnrstudios.com, check them out, and check out the other shows that they've got. We will be their only political show. And look forward to being on an additional network. Jane Stahl, my Monday partner, co-host, is the general manager of Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. That's the art gallery in our hometown. You can reach her by going to Studio BBB, 3 Bs, studiobbb.org. You can also reach her through the Boyertown Area Expression, where she's the co-editor, along with Leslie Misko. Go to BoyertownAreaExpression.town.news to check out the latest from Boyertown and to reach out to Jane. Philip Blackett was just here. You can reach him through his socials at Philip Blackett, Philip with 1 L, Blackett with 2 T's. Those are his socials. Matt will be joining me on Friday. He's the host of the Daily Crypto News. I'm trying to bring that back. He hasn't answered my question about it, so maybe he doesn't want it. But we're trying to bring that back to Yergz Radio as part of our news, daily, hourly news programs. DailyCryptoNews.net. You can reach out to Matt there by writing matt@dailycryptonews.net or info@deemerforcongress.com. Blake will be off again this week due to the Aussies call a walkabout with his family. He's traveling in a camper, I think he said. He's the host of The Homeless Conservative. You can learn more, thehomelessconservative.com. You can write him, Blake, at thehomelessconservative.com. You can get us all by writing us at news, NEWZ, at yergs.com. You can use this to tell us where you're at too. It's just that obviously news is with a Z instead of an S is obviously, you're writing some sort of show like that. So make sure you know who's reading your email and who's not. For show notes and other info, go to yergs.com or mastiff.media. Up next is Sportcat's Daily Gazette. Easiest way to get it is to stay on Yergs Radio, if that's where you're at, or Rainbow. Well, actually, Rainbow Radio is another one. RainbowRadio.gay, YergsRadio.com, RadioX.com.au. And then it's in replay on WZQR, but I don't think he's live there where we are. But check them out anyway. And I like ZQR. I like the other shows that they've got. And the other stations. There's 6 other stations that aren't talk. They're all different types of music. Really, really cool show. Or really cool setup there. So easiest way, if you want the video, go to YouTube and search at Para or Normal Guys. And guys is spelled with a Z. See what are remaining. And yes, Ken to the rescue. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend, gang. Tell a friend. We're building a community here. Let's do that. All right, I am going to start winding down. We got less than 2 minutes left, so that's going to be it for me. Sportcat is up next on Yergs Radio, Rainbow Radio, Radio X Australia, and on his own social medias to include YouTube, Para or Normal Guys. That's it. I will see you guys tomorrow, where it is just me, and I think tomorrow's going to be just the hour that it's supposed to be. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not. I got to get used to the 2 hours. Less than 2 weeks, 2 hours every day. That's why you love me. All right, everybody. I'll see you again.